All things must come to an end, as that is the natural order of how the world works. As George Harrison put it, all things must pass, and it is always good to take a moment, take a sidestep, and just appreciate where we've come, where we've been, and just spend some time in this moment as we honor a passing, honor an ending. And as with most endings, it is just a new beginning, as we'll take this energy into the Metalhead, a music podcast, a meditative music podcast, all about metal music and just music in general. I am your one host, Michael Michel.
And I'm Grace, the other one.
Hello. So we're gonna start off right at the bat, and this is going to be the last episode for quite a while. It might be the final episode. It might just be an episode that we put out and take a sidestep for a while, but for the time being and for the foreseeable future, this will be the last episode. It's just it's been a good ride, and we're going to take a look back and talk about where some of the highlights that we've done in these past 31 episodes. But I wanted to start asking Grace, what have you been listening to lately? What's been rotating in your ears?
Oh, well, I've been listening to Poppy a little bit.
Oh.
I went and saw her live last week, which was pretty wild, pretty wacky.
Yeah.
Not something I personally choose to go and see, but I'm glad I have, because it was, really cool live show. And I've also been listening to an assortment of bands that will be on the Prog Ferry, more colloquially known as Cruise to the Edge.
I'm so jealous.
Which is, now like a week away. I think I'm flying out for that, which is insane.
That's ridiculous. As I said, I'm so jealous. A couple of my friends will be on there, and I keep every single one. I'm like, just pack me in your suitcase. Just please let me on. Let me on. Put me in, coach. I'm ready. It's nuts. All the schedules have been released now, so I'm like getting my spreadsheet together, trying to work out like what I can go to, what I can avoid, all the clashes and all this stuff. So there's a lot of stress, a lot of stuff. But some incredible bands. So I've been spinning plenty of Marillion. Some Big Train, the new Steve Hackett album. And is Moon Safari going to be there?
X. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Oh, because I know they've been on past cruises. So I was wondering.
I don't think they're on this one, which is kind of disappointing. Yeah,
but I know for Marillion, Pete Travis isn't going to be on there because of some medical complications. But
we got Nick Biggs coming along.
Got Nick Biggs, the giant, as Stephen Wilson calls, sex incarnate. So that's pretty tasty.
Flying Colours as well. There you go.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you have like Spock's Beard and Neil Morse and a couple other people, like you pretty much have like all these supergroups there, right? Like one night, you can have Flying Colours and you can have Spock's Beard and you can have Transatlantic, and really you're just shuffling around the same 5 people, just in different things.
It's kind of funny that. Although I've heard there might be a performance of Davidio, Morse and Jennings, their little couple of records, because they're all there.
Yeah, if they're all there.
It looks like it's going to be at like a charity event thing.
Okay.
For To Cure a Rose, which is a charity to do with Casey McPherson of Flying Colours.
Yep.
And the trio are apparently performing there, but it's $100 per person on top of everything else.
Oof. And that's the thing, right? Like, part of the reason why I've never been able to make it out to Cruise to the Edge is just the price tag. I mean, putting aside the flight to get out there, it is a little bit of a hindrance.
There's so many hidden costs as well. Originally, I was like, I've never been to Miami before. I'll go out there for like a week and work remotely and just like explore the place because I love seeing places.
Yeah.
And a couple months ago, I saw the hotel prices, and I was like, oh, it's like $250 a night.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So now I'm arriving like the day before, leaving the day after. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I'll sleep in the airport. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, was not expecting to find accommodation be that expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything was just like super expensive. It's like if you want internet on the boat, it's like $150 or something for one device.
Oh, that's gross.
Which is like, so I'm going without internet, which is unhinged.
That's Godspeed.
Yep, as a certified Gen Zer.
Yeah.
That's going to be challenging.
That's like I said, Godspeed, because I couldn't think about doing. I mean, there's enough on the boat to entertain.
There is, yeah. I don't think I'll be bored.
No, but just.
And when we're docked, there is internet. So it's like there's just a couple of days when you're completely at sea. So I'm going to be printing off my schedules on little bits of paper.
Yeah. Oh boy. In a completely different vein, I've been listening to this new up and coming band from the UK that has really, really taken off. The Last Dinner Party is what I've been spinning. Their album Prelude to Ecstasy, I think it is. Prelude to Euphoria, I think it's Ecstasy. I've spun it at least once a day since it's come out. So it's been my big rotation. And I've also been doing this 20 albums per month roundup on my YouTube channel. So I've been listening to a lot. One that I listened to today was called Messenger's Quest from Triton Project. Came out fairly recently.
That sounds very prog.
It is prog metal.
Prog name generator, yeah.
Pretty much. And the last two tracks are both like 20 minutes, 20 and 28 minutes. So yeah, it makes me very happy to hear that. And one that I think everybody should watch out for is the album Reconciliation by a band called Almo, ALMO. They reached out to me last month with this debut record, and it might be one of the best prog metal records I've heard in a very long time. Ends with a 20-minute track, 20-minute title track, and I really think it's got potential to be one of the best. And yeah, I think it might be this year's No Spoon with their Opus album. Yeah, I think it's really good. It drops in March, so keep your ears out for that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess debut album, so.
Yeah.
I've never heard of them, but that'll be why.
Yeah. Debut. There's a lot of really great debut stuff coming out. All right, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode. This is, as I mentioned at the top, pretty much going to be our last episode, and we wanted to take some time just to kind of look back and chat about our experience, because we've been doing this for a year and a half. It's been a while. So yeah, I know that you have some things that you wanted to chat about, so I'll let you take the floor first.
I do, yeah. I have a few notes. I've really enjoyed pushing the boat out with my music listening and talking about records that I wouldn't have necessarily had a space to do. I find it quite hard sometimes to write down my thoughts on an album, despite running a blog that is about writing words on albums.
Yeah.
But then I mostly cover live shows with that. I find it far easier just to talk about albums sort of a bit more candidly like this. So it's been great to have a space for that, especially as well when other writers might be covering a record that I want to talk about. It's like, oh, well, I can't say anything now. So it's nice to kind of have that space.
Yeah.
And also diving into bands that I maybe would never have bothered with necessarily. Obviously we started out, although inevitably it kind of car crashed back into prog.
Yeah.
We did start out with the hope that it would be a little bit more metal focused. So there are a lot of records and bits of news and stuff that we were covering earlier on in the days, which I really enjoyed. One of which has to be Lamb of God, because I don't think if we hadn't have chatted about their latest album, I wouldn't have ended up going to that show last year, which I had an absolute blast at. So I got, it's like there's benefits. It's broadened my horizons. It's kind of tapped me back a little bit more into the mainstream metal, made me sort of dip my toes back in and go, there's some good stuff out there. There's some good stuff.
Yeah, and I had been a fan of Lamb of God for a little bit. My best friend's cousin is like a massive Lamb of God fan, so, and that last album of theirs was really good. Like that Omens record was just very, very good. And much like you, like it helped me fall back in love with metal, because before I was a fan of progressive rock and progressive metal, I was a big metalhead. I say the story over and over again that the 2 tape cassettes that I had in my dad's car for the longest time was Metallica's Black Album and Appetite for Destruction. And so, falling back into just straight up metal music was quite a journey. I don't think I would have dove in as deep into Metallica's back catalog as I did, because I never really had the chance to listen to like Master of Puppets or And Justice for All or Ride the Lightning. They were never on my radar. So it really allowed me to get back into that, which then made me enjoy my time with 74, 72, 48, 149 seasons from Metallica last year. 72. That's the one. Yeah, and I just had a great time. And this also, like, just within your own musical recommendations, like this really catapulted my love for the harsh black metal.
Yeah, I have in my notes as well. Like I enjoyed sending you off to be like, hey, we should cover this record. And like, I've never heard of it. And I'm like, give it a go. Yeah. And I think that like the one band that I remember was that kind of like, you had that like eureka moment was with Liturgy.
That's the one. The one.
Yeah. Which was like, I was like, this is maybe a bit left field, but like, hey, let's see what happens. And yeah, you fell in love with that, right?
Yeah, it turned out to be one of my favorite records last year. And with Liturgy, it made me fall in love with like Victory Over the Sun and Thanthafax. I can't pronounce the. It's like Thanthafax, Toronto-based black metal band. Yeah, they're really good. But in that same kind of, I think if I just throw in a lot of PHs and like
it's a real tongue
TH,
twister.
it is.
They really make you work for it.
Yeah, it's like I'm just putting in a heck of a lot of like THPH in the search bar, and we're just going to see what comes up. Black metal band.
It reminds me of a band I see on all the festival lineups called like Pigs.
Oh, I know Pigs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, it's like Party Cannon. It's like one of those names you see in a lineup, and you're just like, yeah, you can't avoid like wanting to know a little bit about what that's about.
Yeah. Is this the one? I knew I would come up. So it was Thanthafaxeth. The Hive Mind Narcosis was the record. Here, I'm going to put their name in the chat so you can take a stab at how...
Oh, you can make me go through the pain, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanthafaxeth? Thanthafaxeth?
Thanthafaxeth.
I want to say, yeah.
So
that is a lot of letters combined together that shouldn't be.
Great record. Great record. But yeah. Yeah, it was through this podcast that you introduced me to a new genre of metal that I had never really spent any kind of time with, and I just fell in love with it. Like that Liturgy record of 93696 was just so friggin' good. Like I had to pick it up in physical format. It was so good.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Very cool. I'm sad the shipping on that was so high because I was quite tempted to get a the jewel case, but alas.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other thing that I think is like kind of an underrated happening of this is we actually met up like maybe like 14-15 months ago, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah,
that happened.
For the
and I can tell a bit about the story of that because a mate of mine was like, so I got a friend in Canada who lives in Toronto, and we've done a couple of like collaborations and stuff in the past where I've done like synths and stuff on his music.
Mm-hmm.
And he's lovely dude, and we were chatting and he was like, oh, John Petrucci is coming into town with his tour with Mike Portnoy, and this was like obviously before the whole Dream Theater reunion thing. So I was like, wow, this is like Mike Portnoy and John Petrucci on the same stage. I was like, this is my one chance to like ever see that.
Yeah.
And I was, I love Mike Portnoy, I love Dream Theater, I love John Petrucci. John Petrucci's solo album was great, Terminal Velocity. So I was like, this is the moment to go and do it. And my mate was like, well, I know someone. I was like, oh. So had an in to get a ticket to go and see it at the Danforth Music Hall.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, no, that would be insane. No, I can't just do that. And he was like, you can crash on my sofa for free. And I was like, oh, can I? Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, I ended up in Toronto for like 10 days, which was incredible. Fell in love with the city. Great place.
Love it.
And we got, I messaged you and I was like, hey, look, it looks like I'm going to the show now. Do you want to come as well?
Yeah.
It was very impulsive. I think like, because I collect like points with my credit card. So I had like basically a free flight to get over there. So it was like, I was kind of like, yeah, you know what? This is like why I've been collecting points on this card for like 8-9 years is to do something like this. Like a long haul flight to somewhere crazy for like a silly reason. Yeah. So yeah, definitely worth it.
Yeah, that's incredible because like, hotel rates in Toronto are ridiculous. Like you think they're bad in Miami. Like it's like $300 or $400 a night in Toronto. It's so bad. But I used to live there. Like I lived there for like 10 years and a beautiful city. I would move back in a heartbeat. And much like you, it was very spur of the moment. Like I was blessed that I got to see John Petrucci and Mike Portnoy on the Black Clouds and Silver Linings tour with Dream Theater. But, that was going back over 10 years now. And I'm like, well, this might be the last time I'll ever see them. And
I mean, they're all getting on and it didn't feel like much of the drama was subsiding.
Yeah.
I think the announcement when it hit last year took everyone by shock.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like
no one was expecting it.
I was always like, I always had it in the back of my mind of like, they might. But again, I was also like, well, Mike Portnoy is doing so much more. Would he want to put all that extra stuff to bed to join back up with a group that he still has a little bit of bad blood with?
Like obviously Mike Banghini's out there doing an incredible job.
Yeah, I haven't.
So it's like, why would they part ways with Mike after over a decade of working together and now a Grammy-winning album? It's like, why walk away from that? That seems kind of weird. So it's pretty wild that happened. But
but I'm excited. And. Yeah, I could see whispers because obviously Mike Portnoy was on Terminal Velocity, which loved, great solo record, and he was also on Liquid Tension Experiment 3, so another kind of like working with the boys again. I've really enjoyed some of the deeper conversations that we've had just within the music landscapes as well. One that I wanted to chat was like all the different like festival watches, and get to live vicariously, because this was something that I was going to bring up, if we had I don't want to say a regular episode because that's not fair, but if this was going to be just like a regularly scheduled episode, was like, I don't have a concert schedule at all for the future. Like, most of the time you could grab me and say, what concerts do you have coming up in the next like 4 or 5 months? And I'd be able to name off like 5. But I don't know, this time around, I don't really have any. And I'm trying to figure out kind of why. I don't know if I'm burnt out or if it's just the financial costs, because I wanted to see Haken with their An Evening With tour that's happening in Toronto in a couple of days. Between the Buried and Me have their Colors 1 and 2 shows where they're doing back-to-back nights. And again, I didn't feel it. Even non-prog acts like the Decemberist, they're touring, and I would love to see them. I've seen them a couple times, and each time was great, but I don't know. So I almost got to live vicariously with all the chats that we got to have with all the different festival watches and all the different shows you were going at.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like, I live outside of London now, but yeah, it's kind of nuts how many shows just happen in London.
Mm-hmm.
Like every week there's something. You know, I'm friends with a bunch of like local promoters that are always like, "Oh, come to this, go to that, go to the other." You know, I've got publications asking me to write stuff for them, or like PR people in my box saying, "Hey, can you cover this show?" Oh, let's there you go, back. Yeah, PR people coming to me and be like, "Hey, can you come do the show?" So there's always something, and I've had to like consciously scale back because it's kind of been a little bit exhausting, I think, especially now the journey's a bit further. For me, it's like I'm picking and choosing a bit. I think I've seen a lot of the bands I want to see at least once now, so I'm kind of like, well, unless they're like I have to see them again, or their new album was incredible. It's like, I've seen Lamb of God now. Do I need to see them again? Well, I wouldn't be against seeing them again if it was like at a festival or something and they were there, but I'm not sure I'd go out of my way to go and see them again, because it's like I've kind of checked that off my list.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think you get a bit fatigued with it sometimes. Maybe, I don't know. It's because there are just it gets a bit too much if you're catching bands on every single tour, but then obviously as you go on in life, you find new artists and new music, and you want to see them as well, and you kind of hit this like capacity of like, there's only so many days in a month.
Yeah.
And you now love, you know, I suppose 5 years ago when I was into, let's say, 100 bands, now I'm into 400 bands that I'd love to see live, and it's like trying to keep up is impossible. So I'm still trying to do my minimum 1 gig a month and keep up the streak, which I had a 6-year streak of before COVID.
Wow.
And I've now resumed my streak again from, I think, August 2021.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's that was roughly when I think I got double vaccinated and I felt comfortable going out again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I'm sort of back on that, but yeah, there's too many. Too many shows.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of the limitations, one of the barring for me is like the ticket prices. And we've talked about the ticket prices a number of times on this. Like the last show that I saw was Peter Gabriel, I think it was. And like ticket prices for that was like almost $200, $300 for a single ticket, Canadian, which I remember the first time I saw Haken, and it was $25, you know, and now again, wanted to see Haken and it was up to 80. And I'm like, that was only across 5-6 years. So that's one thing. But also just time. Like I no longer live in Toronto. I'm about 4 hours north of Toronto. So, it's a little harder because then I have to find accommodations. And anyway, that's all besides the point. One of the things that, as I mentioned, and the reason why I started talking about this was being able to talk about that kind of stuff and ruminate about it and also hear about it. Cause I only got to see maybe about 5 or 6 shows last year. So
Yeah.
getting to chat about it is always a treat, and getting to hear about it is always a treat. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I realized we hadn't gotten to talk about the Steve Hackett record. Do we want to do a quick sidebar? And
You mean this one?
well, that's the one. It's like I set you up for that. You got to meet the fella as well.
I did. Yeah. This is signed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is the double version. I don't know what the second CD. What is it? Blu-ray.
Oh.
I wonder if it's a. I wonder what kind of mix it is actually. Maybe it might be 5.1.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, full album in 5.1 surround, 24 high bit resolution stereo.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, good to know. I've got that, I guess.
I do wonder, how can it be 5.1 surround sound if it's in stereo? Because stereo is usually only 2 channels, but 5.1 is the 5. Anyway,
Oh, no, I think there's two.
the 2. I got you.
Yeah, there's a 5.1 version and a stereo high resolution version.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. Disregard what I said. It was spoken out of ignorance.
It was kind of a surreal experience actually, because when I went to do that like sort of little Q&A thing, it was at HMV Oxford Street, and that location has been sort of under a bit of controversy. I think a lot of like UK or London record collectors know what's happened, but
I do
those not in
not.
the loop. The HMV Oxford Street. Oxford Street is like the premier shopping street in London. I think it's quite famous. It's on the Monopoly board.
Right.
And HMV have had their flagship store there for decades. I think it did move at one point, but it's always been on the street.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was just before COVID or at some point around there. They closed their shop up. Three-story store gone. One of the biggest record stores in central London, and there was nothing to replace it. What replaced it was an American candy store, which is sort of an umbrella term for money laundering front in London. There's like a whole series of shops called like American candy stores where they sell products with super long shelf lives. There's never anyone in them, and they're in like prime real estate locations, and it's just like there's not this much demand for American candy in the center of London.
Yeah. Can I do a quick sidebar? Because here in Canada, we have English candy, or I guess we have English shops that sell specifically English candy. It's one of the only places we can get really good Cadbury chocolates. And like rock candy and flying saucers and like all the good stuff that just aren't normally sold in grocery stores, right? Over in the UK, are there like Canadian or American candy stores? Like it sounds like you've got a American
Not
candy
Canadian,
store there.
but there's a lot of American ones, and they'll sell like American sugary cereals and like Nerds, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, like it's like the worst kept secret. It's like you search like American candy store London and you'll just see like money laundering.
See, at least here, the British stores are all owned by like your little English aunt or uncle. Like it's always a mom and pop shop that they just have a connection. Their family is over in the UK and they're just importing all this stuff. Like Aunt Myrtle just came in with a crate of all the stuff that she got in Edinburgh, right? Like that's how these places stay afloat.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Sorry.
that's what the store got replaced with, and it was there like that for a couple of years until I don't know what happened, but suddenly HMV were like, nope, we're taking it back. We're going to take over it again. I don't know what happened. Maybe something where, you know, there's things where local councils go, well, we'd rather have a big record store here as opposed to an American candy store. Yeah. So maybe we can do a deal and force the building owner to lower the rents and all that kind of stuff, right? So as of December last year, it reopened. And it's kind of like nothing changed.
Right.
But the ground floor is full of what I'd call basically just like tat. Just like weird merch and like plush toys and like it's just sort of, I don't know, it's sort of a bit more of a like I like there's a big Funko Pops wall.
Yeah, it does remind me.
It doesn't really. But the basement full of records, full of CDs. It's great.
Yeah.
Love the basement.
Yeah.
And then the first floor is like films, but then the floor above that, they got this little event space now.
Yeah.
Which they had before, and I think I saw Rick Wakeman do something in there about half a decade ago.
Nice.
And there's videos up on YouTube as well of Stephen Wilson doing little performances in there with Ninette as well. But yeah, Steve did this little Q&A that was really interesting to celebrate the release of The Circus of the Night Whale, which is cool.
That's super cool. Yeah. It's funny. Your HMV story reminds me of what happened in Toronto, because right on Dundas and Yonge, we had an HMV that was 3 stories plus a basement. And 2018, I think, HMV pulled out of Canada entirely. Like, they pulled out of all Canadian stores and I think all American stores too. Yeah. Like, which was a shame because yeah.
I'm surprised to see them coming back at all.
Yeah.
Because they were really financially struggling for a long time. They've been through reverse buyouts and mergers, and they've shut loads and loads of stores over the years. Like, back where my parents live, we had a local HMV, which I used to go to, and a local record store. They were both really good. The record store was independent. And then one day the record store shut, and I was like, oh no, okay, I guess I have to go to HMV.
Yeah.
Because I like supporting the more local place. And then a couple months later, HMV shut, and I was like, oh no, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
But then HMV moved into where the local record store was. So that's now like the local record store is an HMV. And it's weird how HMV's come from this like almost like monolithic shop for media.
Yeah.
To now it is like the local record store, because there's not many of them left.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened here in Canada with Sunrise. Like, Sunrise Records used to be everywhere, and I always felt like, you know, HMV and Sunrise were the 2 big commercial franchise music stores. But now, like, and they were all in shopping malls, right? Like, I grew up in cities that like shopping malls were the hub of the community. Now they're all husks and corpses with like 2 or 3 stores left over, and the rest is just vacant. But much like what you were saying, you know, you walk in and it's Funko Pops, it's hats and beanies, it's t-shirts, it's board games. And I'm like, I thought this was a place to buy music. Like, what?
Yeah.
When did
worth. I know there's nothing wrong with like still selling those things. It's just like, oh, that's not what I associate with HMV. Yeah,
and it's all right up front. Like, you have to walk through that in order to get to the movies or the music. So yeah, it's such an interesting changeover. And even my favorite like independent record store in Toronto, Sonic Boom, like, they still have that kind of stuff. Like, they have t-shirts and they have Funko Pops, and you know, I have my Prey candle that I have for Kate Bush. That's what I got there. But like,
I think I went to Sonic Boom actually.
Yeah, I think I took you guys to Sonic Boom, and I think I took you to Rotate This, which is another big Toronto record store. But when you walk in, you are met with music. Like, you're met with the records. And it's after the records that you start to get to some more of that like paraphernalia stuff. So yeah, it's such an interesting kind of shift in order to it's reminding me of what Chapters and Indigo, or I guess Barnes and Noble across wherever, what they've had to do in order to stay afloat, where like all the books are still there, they're bookshops, but like you got to walk through stationery and cozy slippers and socks and blankets and the home sense part of the store before you get into the actual books of the the material. Anyway, that's a sidestep. How was Steve Hackett?
Yeah, he's all right.
he's fine.
Yeah. I think the thing I always liked to like make people aware of is that his mum's still alive and like regularly goes to concerts of his and stuff.
That's incredible because man, he is as old as the day is long, and so to figure that
Steve's like 73. So yeah, his mum's in her 90s, like mid to late 90s, I think.
That's incredible.
And I have met her before. A few years back, I ran into her at an album launch.
Wow.
She was lovely to talk to. Her and her sister as well was also there.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Steve's dad died quite a few years back now, I think. Yeah, his mum's still like happily going to stuff and doing things, which I think is incredible at that age.
That is just incredible. So yeah.
So yeah, no, it's good. It's a nice album as well. I like it.
I was going to say, yeah, what are your thoughts on this album? Because I know this was one that was very anticipated by both of us.
Yeah, I'd say I feel like this with any album I listen to now, I really struggle to get my teeth like into it. Unless it's been a couple of months, and then I start to be like, oh, okay, this is exactly what I think, rather than just this is a little bit what I think. Right? So I'm still in that kind of like first impression stages. I like it. It's nice. It feels slightly more cohesive than some of the last few albums, although it still does feel a little bit paint by numbers Steve Hackett as well. I feel like the last few albums he's done have been quite similar since like sort of The Night Siren in 2015. Is that because he's using the same musicians over and over again? Has he just sort of got into a habit? I don't know, because there's some albums in his solo work that really stand out to me. Like Blues with a Feeling. It's one I always like to recommend to people as like a bit of a off-kilter one, which is just like Steve just like absolutely going ham, playing like super mega blues guitar.
Or what was the one that he put out in 2021 or 2022? The Mediterranean Sky, I think it was. Which
Mediterranean Sky,
all like classical Spanish guitar, and just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I've
really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I've been enjoying this one. I really loved his Wolflight record.
Me too.
I just felt like every record that he's put out since then has just been kind of like another Wolflight record, without really doing anything, and both good and bad. You know, like I said, I loved Wolflight, and so the things that I loved about it found themselves on, what was it, Surrender to Silence and The Night Sirens and those ones.
The Edge of Light.
The Edge of Light. And I'm like, those are good, but I would much rather just listen to Wolflight again. And
yeah, I know what you mean. It happens.
Yeah, and it happens.
You get your cozy album from an artist, especially one that has done. I think the headline was like this is his 30th solo album.
Yeah, and
it's like once you get to that point, it's like, okay, well, there's bound to be some similarities in your output.
Yeah, and I totally get it, and I don't expect him to reinvent himself at this point or do anything drastically different, but you know, the Circus and the Night Whale, I felt was a bit of a change up. It had a little bit of a original sound to it that, you know, it still had the Steve Hackett signature sound, but you know, this being the first concept record since Voyage of the Acolyte, I think really helped pace it, really helped ground it. And I found myself enjoying it, maybe not as much as Wolflight, but definitely more than any of the other records that he's put out since Wolflight. So, I think I would return to this one over any of the other records that he's put out since Wolflight. And yeah, I've been enjoying it. The concept is kooky and weird, and I love it. And yeah, it surprised me. So yeah, I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Anything we want to end on? How do we want to end this, boy?
I don't know. How do you end anything?
How do you end anything? Most of the time, it's realizing that I hadn't done or talked to or participated in something for a while and been like, oh yeah, I should probably do that. And then just never doing that. That's usually how most of the things that I've been involved with end. So I appreciate the fact that we're actually giving this one a proper send off. So maybe that's how we'll end. Maybe we'll just thank everybody, those of you that have tuned in. Thank you for following us. I know our YouTube got a couple upticks, and glad that we had a few of you join us on the YouTube. Where can people find us? Maybe that'll be the transition. So this is kind of like find out where we're at. So if people wanted to find out more of your stuff, where would they go?
Well, if you want to hear me blabber on about music, about live shows, you want to see some of my photography, I write a lot of podcast because I run it. I do articles here and there for Prog Magazine. I write from Victor Media. So any of those places, you'll probably see my name pop up somewhere on an article. If you want to hang along for the music, then just Grace Hayhurst on basically any platform. You can find me by searching that. Yeah. I think is the easiest way.
Amazing. And you can find me on my YouTube channel. It's Notes Reviews. Hopefully we'll be doing a little bit more on that channel proper. We'll get you on because you came on when we did our ranking of all the Opeth records, putting them in the tier list. So maybe we'll do something similar. And there's a project that I'm working on that hopefully you'll be a part of. Tier
list of the Ryo Okumoto solo albums. Let's go.
Yeah, tier list of Storm Corrosion. That'll be great.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a long one. To be fair, Ryo does have some albums that came out in like the late 90s, but
he does, yeah.
I realized that as soon as I said it. I was like, actually, no, there's not just one.
Yeah, there's I think like 2 or 3 of them, and they're like really, really like 90s albums too. They're great. So yeah, look out for those in the coming future. And yeah, I want to once again thank everybody for joining us on here. And we will send you back into the wilds of the ether. Send you back, and as we say one last time, our usual catchphrase for this little podcast of ours.
If you pick them in the pit, put them back up. No, I don't even remember what it actually was supposed to be.
If they fall down in the pit.
If they fall down in the pit, pick them up.
Pick them up. Yeah. We had to have one clean. Nailed it. Right at the end. It's the gymnastic individual twirling in the air, landing double feet. No falter.
Absolutely.